AuntMinnieTV 2012, our web show at RSNA wrap up. It is day 4 of RSNA Wednesday, and the show is closing. It's been a long week. We have one more day left for most of us. Some people are already leaving. My name is Brian Casey. I'm editor-in-chief of AuntMinnie.com. We have with us Eric Barnes, international editor of AuntMinnie.com. Kate Madney, associate editor of AuntMinnie, and also Wayne Forrest, features editor. And so we'd like to thank everybody for joining us this week for our final web show of the week. So Eric, you have been out attending scientific sessions. Can you talk to me a little bit about what you saw this week that you thought was particularly interesting?
Well, you know, the RSNA is like that story of the 3 blind guys who are looking at the elephant, and one thinks it looks like a snake, and one thinks it's a big wall. You can't really see all of this meeting from one person's perspective, but my perspective has focused on CT and residence, which are 2 very different but very interesting areas. I think one of the coolest things I saw this week was a presentation by the always entertaining Dr. David Levin from the University of Pennsylvania, who looked at the Social Security records and found out that SPECT myocardial perfusion is used 52 times more frequently than coronary CT angiography, even though the 2 are competitive tests for patients with suspected coronary artery disease. You can argue about which test is better for what patients, but generally 52 to 1 is a pretty excessive amount. And he sent me an image here, which I will show you, if I can, about the ratio that has come up in that 10 years.
And he believes that this is all being done due to self-referral?
It's pretty much because the cardiologists have got nuclear medicine cameras in their office, and they intend to use them. And
this is in spite of the fact that there's really been a lot of advances made in cardiac CT angiography that show that it's probably a preferable test to SPECT myocardial perfusion. Is that right?
In most respects, it really is. He went on about how when you have a SPECT MPI test, you might still have coronary artery disease, but if you have a negative coronary CT angiography, you almost certainly do not. So it's very interesting that it's pretty much a bald case of turf preferences and people going for the money. So there you have it. Pretty interesting stuff. And I've attended a few other CT studies. They're doing a lot of validation of different dose techniques, and one group from Detroit found that organ doses are lining up with size-specific dose estimates, which is the new holy grail dose measurement that uses patient size and attenuation to get more accurate doses than have been available with other methods. And they went and analyzed CTDI vol with SSDE and did a careful analysis and found that SSDE is just about perfect for predicting organ doses when the organ is adequately covered in the exam. So that one will be we'll be seeing that on AuntMinnie tomorrow.
And that's been the dose thing has been a big issue here, right? I mean, everybody's talking about dose. How do we get dose down? How do we manage it? How do we report it?
So much, and this year more than ever, they've got the tools to do it. The explosion in tools has just been incredible, and in all of the research that's gone into it has been pretty interesting. And so there's a lot to come. If you stay tuned to the CT community on AuntMinnie, there's a lot to come that you'll see in that area. The other big area that I've been looking at this week is residents, and there was a study from 2 large teaching hospitals in Tennessee that found that that radiology residents require twice as long to place central venous catheters as interventional radiologists, and they did not improve over the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th years of their residency, which is a little bit troubling finding. And so he recommended that a lot of attention to be paid to timing catheter placements, timing fluoroscopy for every use to make sure that residents know that every minute counts. And I saw another presentation where this was a big part of their residency training program. So it looks like some people have already found this issue and are paying a lot of attention to it because everybody knows if you leave the fluoroscopy on too long, the doses add up really quickly. And one of the most interesting presentations I saw I have not written it yet, but it was by Daryl Heitkamp, who talked about the big transition that's taking place in resident programs where they are replacing the oral boards with a core exam after the first 36 months of training, and then the fourth year is a preparation for the qualifying exam, during which radiology residents will really go off on their own and start to study things that are more different in the areas of what they want to study. And the interesting thing is that programs have limited resources. And so do you starve the core students in order to take care of the fourth year advanced residents? Because after all, it's their last chance before they go out in the world. Or do you keep the limited resources of your program in line for the first through third year residents who really need to learn a lot before that third year? There's a lot of disagreement. There's a lot of ideas flying around. But any way you look at it, the new system starts next year. So everyone who's involved in a residency education is very interested in this issue, and there are going to be a lot of interesting stories on that. So stay tuned.
All right, very good. Well, I can imagine if you're a resident, you're also going to be pretty interested in exactly how much studying you're going to have to be doing in the next few years. So, Eric, thanks for that report. Next up is Kate Madney, and Kate, you've been covering women's imaging for us and also practice management issues. What have you seen out there?
Hi, Brian. Well, I wanted to share with you one of the most entertaining sessions that I went to this week. Was yesterday, the annual oration in diagnostic radiology given by Dr. Leonard Berlin of Rush University. It was titled "To Disclose or Not to Disclose Radiologic Errors. Should Patient First Supersede Radiologist Self-Interest?" And that's a great topic, and he certainly gave a lot of information, but the special thing was that he delivered the whole 22-minute talk in rhyming verse.
That's hilarious.
It was, and it took me a little while.
Was it a rap?
No, it wasn't a rap, but it was rhyming, and it took me a while to. I was
it like
an
epic poem or something?
It was like, yeah, it was like Gilgamesh.
Wow.
So that was awesome.
That's something else.
When I went up to him later, he said, "Well, they may not remember what I said, but they will remember that I said something."
Yeah, they will.
So that was.
Can you quote some of it?
No, I didn't write any of it down.
Call me Ishmael.
Yes. Otherwise, yesterday I attended a panel discussion about radiology and consumerism that was quite lively. It had industry representatives, patient advocacy representatives, a representative from a cancer care treatment center network, kind of an independent thing, a la carte or concierge care, as well as radiologists. I'll show you I wrote an article about it.
Great.
Let's see if I can find it for you. Anyway, healthcare is moving from this doctor knows best model to patient as consumer. And one of the questions that kept coming up in the presentation was, why haven't we done this earlier? Patients or people make consumer decisions based on all kinds of criteria. Why wouldn't healthcare be similar? So we heard from patient advocacy people, and let me show you this. I think I can do it now.
Oh, here we go.
There we go.
All right. Okay.
That was quick.
Oops. Yeah. So
nice headline, by the way. I like that.
Yeah. So thank you, Brian. I tried. Lots of different perspectives on the topic, and the fact is, with healthcare reform and prices kind of squeezing and patients having to pay more copays, this patient as consumer is, that's just the way it's going to be. And so there were lots of pieces of advice for how radiologists can adjust. And the bottom line seems to be, adjust or sort of don't thrive. This General Shinseki, if you don't like change, you'll like irrelevancy even less, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, it's the patient focus of this meeting is really interesting. What you're saying, because I think last year the theme was celebrate the image or something like that, and that's a great theme for radiology, but it really demonstrates that the focus last year was inward. It was let's talk about the image, and this year by saying putting patients first, the RSNA is really saying, it's patients that are most important. We need to talk about patients first, and that theme is actually permeated throughout the hall. I talked to a lot of vendors today, and they said this is part of this patient first theme. So I think that's a great point.
Yeah. Well, and a couple years ago, I was hearing some talk about how radiologists need to come out of the reading room, that kind of thing. It's just everywhere now. We are not in the beginning of this discussion. We are fully into it, and lots of panel members and scientific sessions have been about that, how to actually start being a real consultant instead of being an image interpreter.
Great. Well, thank you, Kate. Next up is Wayne Forrest, and Wayne, actually, we didn't talk about this beforehand, but I wanted you to tell a quick story about how you were over in the Lakeside Center the other day, and you had something real interesting happen to you. Could you tell us about that?
Let's see. That had to do with what now, Brian? Refresh my memory.
Oh, come on, Wayne. Something fell from the ceiling.
Oh, now I remember. Yes, we were having the discussion. Fortunately, it didn't hit me in the head. We were having the discussion about where President Obama may have given his victory speech on election night.
He did it here at McCormick Place.
Correct. He did it here at McCormick Place. We were trying to figure out which convention building, whether it was the North-South Hall or Lakeside Center. I was touring the Siemens booth at the time, and I found some blue and red confetti inadvertently coming down from the ceiling. And I kind of figured that must have been a telltale sign that that was happening, where President Obama must have given a speech in that facility. So
it had to be, because I don't think blue and red is the Siemens color, so it had to have been something else besides a booth decoration.
That was my impression as well. It had to be Democratic related. Anyway.
All right, so you actually went to some sessions too, in addition to visiting vendors, and can you talk to us a little bit about what you saw?
Yeah, indeed. Breast imaging was the focus of a couple of sessions that I took a look at this week. One yesterday came from Dr. Deborah Rhodes out of Mayo Clinic, Rochester, and she and her colleagues came to the conclusion that low-dose molecular breast imaging outperforms screening mammography to detect cancer in women with dense breasts. When we talk about low dose, what Dr. Rhodes and her colleagues did, they went with the dose of technetium-99 cestamide from 8 millicuries, I should say from 20 millicuries down to 8. In fact, let me see if I can't call that up on the screen here so our viewers can see it. And when they did their study a year ago, they showed how 20 millicuries of cestamide was able to diagnose these women with breast cancer using molecular breast imaging. This year they reduced the dose even more to 8 millicuries and found that it worked just as competitively, if you will. So some more positives. They plan to continue the study into next year, adding more women into the trial, and also lowering it down to 4 millicuries of cestamide to see how that works. So certainly some positive news for the molecular breast imaging technology companies.
All right, very good. Yeah, very positive. That's a very intriguing modality, but it is important to get the dose down as much as possible. So, Today, last day, well, actually tomorrow, last day of RSNA. Many people are heading to the airport today. Wayne, do you have a read on what the weather looks like? Are we going to see any traffic delays?
Actually, about 99.9% of the U.S. looks great right now. No particular weather difficulties. I checked the airports across the country, and there is only one exception to the rule, and that is in San Francisco, with our extensive delays. This
serious?
afternoon. Yes, very much so.
It's
That is the one airport.
I'm not going home
registered
till Monday.
extensive delays as of late this afternoon. I understand there's been some heavy rains out on the West Coast, and I think that's part of the problem.
Yeah, I think when it rains over there, it pretty much shuts everything down.
So the country looks good except for San Francisco.
I may be here an extra day, everybody.
Yay.
Join us again tomorrow at 5 o'clock local time for more.
Do you like alternative theater?
Sure, I'll try anything, Eric. All right. Well, thank you for that, Wayne. Thanks to everybody. Thanks, Eric, Kate, and Wayne for joining us tonight. Thanks to everyone who has taken the time to watch our broadcast and watch us have a little fun, because that's half of what RSNA is about. It's putting the patient first and having a little fun. Hope you all have had a good RSNA. And signing off for AuntMinnie.com, Brian Casey. Make sure to check back at our Radcast for all of our great coverage of this meeting in Chicago. Good night, and hope you had a good week.